Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by the British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom and Bathroom Installation. My name is Louis Mendez. This is the big match preview. On this week's show, we will, of course, be gearing up for Saturday's trip up to Shrewsbury, but also we're going to continue in our quest to try and work out what Charlton's best 11 is. Joining me as we try and get our head around that. First up, top right, sat. Well, he claims he's not in a cave, but there's no proof otherwise. Is that Mr. Mark Newbury? How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, I promise I'll pay me electric bill by the next time I'm on. So I'm okay, mate. I'm recovering, as you know. So
yeah, one of the legions of people who seem to have COVID at the moment. Obviously, Mark there, sat in the dark for our own sake. And also joining us on the bottom of the screen, not on holiday for some reason, is Sue Gallop. How you doing, Sue?
I'm all good. I'm on countdown to the next one, Lo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could spend more time on holiday than you do at home. Right, so as I said on this week's show, we're going to hear from Miles Leeburn shortly, actually, because I wanted to delve into the fact that he has to play out wide in this 4-3-3. So that was something quite interesting that we obviously picked up the last couple of weeks. I asked Miles about that, so we can hear from him his views about the formation we're playing before we then try and mush our team into that 4-3-3, because we are trying to find our best 11 as a Charlton side in that formation that Mickey Apple seems to have has favoured so far. So we're going to hear from Leeburn. We're going to hear from you guys in the chat as well as we try and get our head around this best 11. Good evening to Bob, to All Hell Let Loose, to Jay, to Paul, Andrew, Keith, Michael, Joe, and Charlton Fan, who are already in there as well. Let us know what you think who you think should be in our best 11. Get your comments in on YouTube, or you can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk, or you can tweet us at Charlton Live. Later on in the show, as we turn our attention to the trip to Shropshire on Saturday, we're going to hear from Dan from SALOP Cast. He's going to give us the lowdown on SALOP, and we'll hear a little bit from Mickey Apples ahead of the game as we look ahead to it from a Charlton point of view. Let's dive straight in to the audio, I think, because we have got a lot to be getting through this evening. So yeah, Miles Leeburn, we spoke to him after the game over the weekend. Obviously, that fantastic 3-1 win over Wycombe, in which Miles opened the goal scoring with that excellent finish after being played in by Tyrese Campbell. That was Miles' first league goal of the campaign. And of course, it came in a first half where we'd started okay. It felt like it quietened down a bit. And I was getting a bit aggy by the fact that Miles was playing really well, but the majority of his work was out on the right-hand side, and then he drifted inside and scored. So I was like, I wonder what he feels about that. So let's hear what Miles has to say about playing slightly out wide in the 4-3-3. Playing in this slightly different formation, obviously a 4-3-3. Before your goal, I thought you're having loads of really good touches, but you're having those touches obviously out wide because that's where you're required to be. How does that feel as a striker who wants to be in there getting goals?
To be honest, it's just about doing what the manager asks, and if it's out wide for me, then I just got to do that job, and obviously making sure I'm getting on the end of crosses from Cory and being at that back post and even putting in crosses myself. And yeah, it's just about getting the job done, and I think I done it well today. And obviously we got the 3 points and I got a goal, so yeah. Yeah, and the tracking back, what's that like to deal with as a striker? It's obviously different for me, but yeah, no, I think, to be fair, I think I've tracked back quite well today, and making sure that obviously I can't just leave James by himself because that's just not got good team play. But yeah, obviously it's an extra bit of fitness, and I think the more I play in that position or the more minutes I get anyway, I think it will come and I'll find it easier.
we got some options up front now. Obviously, now that Chuks is back, Tedic has come on and scored his goal to them. There's a lot of competition up there.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, healthy competition because we're all encouraging each other and all happy for each other when we score, and it's just it's healthy competition, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the season as a whole, obviously it hasn't started the way that anyone wanted it to, but Charlton are 3 unbeaten now. Obviously, a big win against probably a playoff chasing side today. How are the players feeling about what's still achievable this year?
Yeah, it's a big confidence booster, and like you say, the 3 unbeaten. We just hope to keep building on it and hopefully keep getting these wins and racking up points and getting up there.
Would you tell us about the new manager coming in? What's his sort of methods been like?
Yeah, he's been very on the fitness side, making sure we're getting our fitness up, which is good for me because I didn't have a pre-season, so it's helping me just build up my fitness. And I think making sure that our defence is solid and we're defending these crosses and making sure we're strong on set plays, and it's been very strong on that side, and I think it's been very, very helpful for us, especially in this 3 we've been unbeaten in. Yeah,
is that something that the players as a whole feel like we probably could have done better last season, maybe fitness?
Yeah, I think obviously on the set plays, we could, especially at the beginning of the season, we didn't look as strong, and I think he's come in and worked on it, and I think it's made us, it's worked for the better, and we look a lot stronger when we're defending these corners and wide free kicks.
There we go. That was Miles Leeburn on Saturday after the win against Wycombe. Obviously asked him about a few different bits, but the 4-3-3 then, Mark, we have got a lot of forward options now, as I was saying to Miles there, and I said it to Michael Appleton as well about the juggling he has to do to try and fit all of our different striking potential players into this 4-3-3, which does leave someone who can get loads of goals like Miles Leeburn further out wide. I mean, Michael did say as the season progressed, he could see all of those players playing different roles in that front 3. But I mean, is it one you favour? I've always liked a front 2, but it didn't exactly go wrong on Saturday, did it?
No. I've always been castigated for being an old 4-4-2 advocate, and I was thinking that's the best way to play. But obviously, in a modern game, you want your front 3 to be flexible, which they showed on Saturday. I think it's finding the right combination when you've got someone who's working as hard as Alfie, who literally doesn't stop flitting about, and then you can supplement that with Cory on one side, and he's played Miles out, and like I say, he was effective when he came in. Great finish, very calm, for getting the ball out under his feet, quick feint of the shoulders and burying it. And I think, like most young players, as he is, they just want to play. So if the gaffer tells him, right, go and play on the wing, he's going to go, I'm going to play on the wing. He's not going to, throw his toys, which he's just put away, out the pram. And I think we've got those. What we said, we felt sorry for Dean because the options are there now, which he didn't have a month ago. And you say, it could have been all different. What Appleton's got now is options, but he's also got a bit more tactical nous of how to use those options. And for Miles, it's only going to improve his game because you'll think, look in the Premier League, Thierry Henry started out as a winger, but became one of the most feared strikers. And so had that on his bow. And there's other, people who've gone out wide and have managed to be flexible across front 3. I would always go for a 4-4-2 because I think if you've got wingers putting balls in and you've got a big one and a little one up front, you're going to cause problems. You're going to, Miles is, I know he's going to sound stupid. He's tall for 6'4", if you know what I mean. He carries himself well. He puts himself around well. We've seen taller strikers than him, like Simon Mackinock, not being able to head a ball and get onto things, but he holds the ball well. So playing out where he is, I've got no qualms with that. If we're going to play 4-4-3, which I think is going to be the preferred thing, he's got to be in that front 3 somewhere, but he's got to learn the flexibility of being the man in the middle. He's got to learn the flexibility of being a man who drops out to the side because they're going to have to mark him. And so if they send someone further bigger up, it's going to leave space, which we have to exploit. So I think it proved Saturday that it works and he can fit into that system. And remember, he is still learning.
I mean, it's an interesting point. Jim saying, I agree with Louis, the team would look better if he swapped Miles Leaburn and Alfie May around. I'm not convinced that's even what I'm saying, because then you'd have Alfie out wide, and then I'd have that same issue about not having, someone like Alfie, who is a certified goal getter, right in front of the goal. Like, it's an interesting one. I mean, Stephen saying I'm liking the three so far, but for me, that would be Cory Taylor, May, and Campbell. So it's interesting that, because again, you look at the last two games. I guess maybe the Stevenage game we didn't create a great deal, but we certainly stuck in the game and enjoyed a lot of possession in the second half. And against Wickham, we had a few chances. We scored an excellent goal right at the end to kill it off. But it almost goes to highlight the fact that, I mean, it's actually a nice position for the manager to be in, Sue, that we've possibly got too many forward options for us to fit in. We're sitting here trying to work out how to get all our best players in, and then the question becomes, well, does it become you fit a formation because of the players you've got, or you change, or you stick with formation because it's worked so far, and if that means Campbell's not in the front three, or we're missing Miles Leaburn at some point, then it's a real headache, isn't it?
Yeah, and just what you were saying about that flexibility, like, I don't see why we have to stick to a set formation. I guess when you're doing your tactics about the team that you're playing against, do you not then think about actually, if you become too predictable in playing a certain formation, that then leaves you open to teams being better set up against you. So I think the joy of having that many players in those positions is that you can be flexible, you can mix it up, you can change your formation during the game. If it's not working, like obviously Saturday it worked, free up front, it worked. I think what you're both saying about having players that learn the positions in, not so much Alfie because he's older, but someone like Miles that's going to get another string to his bow, like by learning to play out wide, not always being that front target man. It's just going to strengthen the side in the long run. But yeah, definitely, I feel like there's, over the years we've messed around obviously with different managers, but all these different formations, and like certain managers want to play a certain way, but why should you play to your strengths, and you play whoever's like the better players to play on that day, you fit that formation around them, and what's going to try and get you the best result against whoever it is you're playing. So yeah, it is a headache for Mickey, but at the same time it gives him those options. He doesn't have to, like I've already said, you can start off 4-3-3 and then think, actually, this ain't quite working. Let's pull one back and just go with the two up front. See, I think it's a massive bonus. Massive.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen's saying you can't get all your best players in. Leeburn and Anike can come from the bench. Joseph said it's been a while since we've had too many players for a position. It's a nice headache to have. We haven't got a team there. We've got positions with good players, and we have to ask some of them to play out of position to play. So, for example, and if I wanted to play two up top and we were talking about a 3-5-2, then we come back to, well, we haven't really got wing backs. Like, I love Cory Taylor. I think he's really come on this season, but still, he's a forward-minded player, and you don't want him to have to think about as much tracking back as you have to do in the wing-back formation. I mean, Alex is saying we should have had Tyrese out wide, Leeburn up front next to Alfie May, as Tyrese is an actual winger and not a central player. So then that comes back to, if you're going to play 4-4-2, which you don't see that many rigid 4-4-2s now, and all hell let loose is asking if Mark was to play, would we play a diamond in midfield? So, I mean, basically, this conversation at the top there and speaking to Miles has served to show why we are trying to do this 4-3-3, why we're going to do the best 11 like that, because that's how we're playing at the moment. But it does have its sort of bonuses and its downsides as well. I mean, just quickly, would you have gone diamond midfield, Mark? Is that the way you see it? No,
two wingers. I mean, yeah, I was going to go two wingers, Campbell and Campbell. Put them on either side. And then let them raid up and down. I know it's probably unlucky for Cory, but I think he's another one of those players. The guy just said about having your players who can come on from a bench and attack it. You know, Cory's one of those players. I think if you had him on from a bench, I know he started last few games, but he's another dangerous player. So no, I'd go for a flat midfield. And I know what Sue says about adapting to how other teams play, but I always think make them worry about you more than you worry about them. Because if you start worrying how they're setting up, matching, that's what half time's for. You can then say if it's working or not working and then tweak it around, but let them deal with your strengths first, as opposed to trying to sort of like counteract their strengths, because you become a reactive side as opposed to we want to be a proactive side. Yeah, I understand. You say it becomes, and this is what happened with Carl. We did become a bit predictable in the way we played, but I think now we've got a bit more. It's going to sound funny, a bit more youth and inexperience flitting around, so it might not be that way all the time anyway. So they're going to get used to playing in a certain way. But no, I'm 4-4-2, 2 wingers.
Yeah, but I mean, I just can't see a world where you don't start Cory at the moment, even if he's a great impact player. I mean, especially now that he's been going 90 minutes as well. I mean, someone made a good point earlier on, Chris, saying Mickey Apple's comments post game about Cory worried me. Basically, enjoy him while you can, and that is the situation we're in at the moment. All hell let loose reckons Dobbo wouldn't be able to play as a defensive midfielder in a flat four. Stephen saying, I can see where Sue is coming from, but I don't think it helps the team to keep changing the formation. We have the players to play 4-3-3 with plenty of pace. So there, we've discussed the formation. We are sticking with the 4-3-3 for now with the best 11, because that is what Mickey Apples has laid down as the law since he's come in. So let's try and do. We might even only do the middle three of the best 11 here, because this is going to take a while. But let's bring it up on screen. While I'm bringing it up on screen, we got a good message from Adam just before the show started. Said, looking forward to tonight's Charlton Live. The best starting 11 is a very interesting conversation. It goes to show how disjointed the start has been. Quite a few players we say could or should be in this team, but we haven't seen enough of them yet to make a decision. The likes of Louis Watson, Terry Taylor, Tene Watson all look good so far, but not really seen enough to say either way. The only real certains are May, Dobbo, and Corey Blackett-Taylor, brackets, unless you're Mark, who would stick him on the bench, apparently. So, right, I'll put up onto the screen. Those of you joining us on YouTube, you'll be able to see it on screen. Those of you on the podcast, don't worry too much that you can't see, because I will explain as we go through. But last week, we had quite a long discussion about the goalkeeper, and we landed on Maynard Brewer. That was including the votes that came in from the chat. So that's who we've gone with in goal. Then in the back four, and it was quite a brave decision for us at right back, because we went for Tene Watson, having never seen him play at that point in a Charlton shirt. But a lot of people chose, I think, the experience of Tene over the inexperience, but also the youthful exuberance, of course, of Asimwe, who I still think is going to have a very good career for us. Left back, Teo Eden was pretty much the nailed-on choice there, because I think we decided we didn't actually have anyone else there who plays as his natural position. Now, of course, that does include Terrell Thomas, who came in and did quite well last week, to be fair to him at left back. Jones was an absolute cert for centre half, based on both the discussions we had. And then Michael Hector was perhaps the controversial choice. I think at centre back, he wasn't nailed on with everyone in the chat. Certainly wasn't nailed on with me. I think there's been some mistakes there. But again, we looked at some of that inexperience in the back line, and that's where we landed. So we've got the back five sorted, the goalkeeper and the back four. So now this is where it's going to get potentially interesting, potentially difficult. We're into the midfield three. Now on the screen currently, this was how we started at Stevenage when we the game previously to when we first did this. So we had Chem Campbell on the left side of the three, George Dobson in the middle of the three, and on the right side was Cory Addison. Now, obviously, changes were made for the game against Wycombe over the weekend, but that's sort of our starting point, based purely because that's who started against Wycombe over the weekend. Now, Mark, I guess let's get the easy one out of the way. The defensive pivot of that midfield three. I'd be surprised if anyone's going to say anything other than George Dobson. Anyone in the chat want to say something? Let me know. Mark, have you got an argument for someone other than Dobbo?
No, not one bit. I thought it was the only nailed on out of the 11. I thought you can probably make an argument for every other position on the pitch, but you can't make an argument for Dobson, which with his racking up of yellow cards means we're going to have to think about that soon anyway. No, it's Dobbo all day, and it's funny because I know All Hell Let Loose had said, "Oh, Dobbo can't play as a defensive midfielder in a flat four." But if you watch how Dobson plays anyway, he goes from left wing to right wing to left wing to he covers every blade of grass in that midfield. So he does a defensive job, whether he's on his own, whether he's in a 2, whether he's in a 5, he still does the same job. I'd like to see him. I know he's a defensive midfielder, but we've seen him score, and I'd like to see him sort of like not gamble as such, but maybe seize an opportunity to arrive late, and he's got a good shot, and it's. I think for everything we really sort of like raise him to the roof, George Dobson. I think he is one of those players who, if he stays with us, will go down with a really good status. But I think it's only a selfish thing to say, you know what, score. I'd want to see him score 5 minimum in a season. I know it's not what he's there for, and it doesn't take. Don't want to do that, take away from everything else he does well. But say, you know what, help yourself to a couple of goals as well, because for years we've been screaming, we've been sort of like happy to play it side to side to side to side, get it within 30, 40 yards and have a crack.
Yeah.
So no, this is the only one I'm thinking. There's no argument. I don't think anyone's going to come on here, watch who's listening and go, yeah, you can't play Dobson. So that's the easy one.
So looking at the chat, for that defensive midfield role, I can't see anyone suggesting anything else. I'll just go through the lists of other midfielders. Now, bear in mind that we're going to have 3 out of this list. It's not like the goalkeeper where we're only going to end up with 1. So, and anyone in the chat, I think I've got everyone. I did just have to add McGrandles and Kirk to the list because they weren't on my list, and I was just going for our squad list, and there's 2 I forgot. So I'd be surprised if they jump into the best 11 on the basis I forgot they existed. But so I've got Dobson, Fraser, Kamara, Anderson, Terry Taylor, Louis Watson, McGrandles, and Kirk as our midfield options. So no one's going to replace Dobson in that specific role, are they?
No chance. And I guess as well, you're talking about players that are injured at the moment as well. So it's like you would. For me, I'd always want probably Cam and Fraser in my midfield, but then how does that fit with a 3? So
I think it could.
Yeah.
I think it could. Yeah. So I think that will sort of be the discussion that comes up. I mean, Johan in the chat said Terry Taylor could play the CDM and Dobbo could fit in the midfield at Campbell, but then you're asking Dobbo to go forward a bit more, which I think we have seen elements of this season. Obviously scored that goal against Leyton Orient, being inside the 6-yard box would be massive nosebleed territory for him at stages in his Charlton career, but certainly not as much this season. Obviously, we saw him arriving late at the far post against Ipswich last season. Scored an absolute weldy against Crawley in the checker trade, whatever it's called nowadays as well. So the other 2, and bear in mind, so sort of in this 4-3-3 formation, the way it's set out on the screen, it almost feels like you're looking at wingers, but you're not really. It's just they're either side of Dobson, but playing more central. So Sue, let's hear your 2 that you'd like to throw into the mix. So let's say it's going to be out of Fraser, Kamara, Cory Anderson, Terry Taylor, Louis Watson, McGrandles, and Kirk. I mean, I think there's 2 obvious choices there, but it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts around perhaps certainly some of the ones who might just miss out as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of love for Louis Watson at the moment. I actually wasn't there on Saturday, but it's like I said, you're gonna have Dobbo all day long. From what I've seen this season, I would be having Cam and Fraser. How that fits in with right and left, I don't know, but then it's so hard, isn't it? Because I don't feel like some of these players we've seen enough of yet to be able to say, oh yeah, 100%. Like that's why I think I'm probably sticking with Cam and Fraser with Dobbo. But
And
yeah,
it also throws another spanner into the works, actually, Mark, when you look at it. So again, on that list, I haven't actually included the likes of the two Campbells, Chem and TC, because in my mind I have them playing in the front three, either side wide. But I mean, as we saw against Stevenage, and I don't think it was his best game, Chem was sort of sitting a little bit further back. But then when he has sat, in deep positions, he laid on a superb assist for Alfie in the game against Fleetwood. So could you see a different dimension where you bring one of those two into the back line and because you're not going to get Fraser or Kamara playing in the front three, so that would mean one of those two coming out of the side.
Yeah, it's funny because I wrote this down and I've just seen it come up in the comments as well. Someone's actually agreeing with me. I've gone for Chem, Campbell, Dobson and Fraser. Only for thing, I think if you have Pan in there as well, if you had Pan, Fraser and Dobson, it's very workmanlike and good passing and stuff, but I don't think it's going to be as exciting, for want of a word. I was really impressed with everything I've seen of Campbell. I thought Fleetwood, he just got a battering and he just got up and carried on and tried to carry on. And I just couldn't really deal with him. And like I say, it was a fantastic ball, really good vision for Alfie May. And I think if you've got Dobson there and you've got Fraser a little ahead of him, I think Campbell can be that, want of a word, for luxury player you have in your mid three, because he'll get back and he'll tackle and he's quick, he's very fast. I think there are some people who are going to say, well, he's a bit unlucky for Kamara to not be, because he's impressed as well. But I just think that would leave us slightly static in midfield. I think the way Campbell plays and gets around, he's impressed me with what I've seen of him. Obviously, we're waiting for Fraser to come back for fitness, but we're talking about have the best 11 we've got. I think Fraser and Pan can be interchangeable, and then Campbell can probably be interchangeable with other Campbell. So, and I haven't seen enough of Louis Watson or Terry Taylor to really go, yeah, they can be a good. I know I hadn't seen enough of Tanai Watson, but that was my argument, was we have a specialist right back, play a specialist right back. I think in midfield, if you've got Dobbo there, you can have the luxury of having a Chem Campbell and Fraser. I mean, Fraser's not bad, will put himself around as well. And a bit of experience, can pick up a goal, good from a set piece. So, that would be my three. So I would have put Campbell in as an option for the midfield, because I think the front three will be a harder thing if you added him as available in the front three and not in the midfield.
Yeah, very interesting. Let's have a look at some of the comments. Then Bernie saying Louis Watson should be nailed on for the right side of the midfield. Michael saying, yeah, Watson and Dobbo both nailed on for me just after Wickham. Tom saying Chem, Dobbo and Scott Fraser when he comes back. So that would obviously leave Kamara out. Daniel saying Kamara, Dobson, Fraser. Andrew Roth saying Fraser, Dobbo, Kamara. All hell let loose, pointing out that Louis Watson took a decent corner, which is obviously something we've not seen enough of this season or last season. Alex says, for me, Louis Watson just wasn't the player I expected him to be. I didn't think he performed all that well. I guess that's after the Wickham game. Andrew saying ditto to Andrew and what Daniel said. Jim saying Dobbo, Kamara and Louis Watson for me. So, yeah, we're getting a real mix. I'm going to have to tally up these votes at some point. Stephen said Fraser, for me, was very poor against Orient. Still think he's got a lot to prove. He had a poor season last season. Hard to shiny fields joined us a bit late. Yeah, Luke saying Dobson, Fraser, Kamara all day long for me as a midfield. Yeah, Bernie pointed out that Louis had one poor corner. All hell let loose is saying Dobbo, Kamara and Chem Campbell. Aaron saying Fraser is a luxury player. Yeah, and Tom saying Kamara is too slow and a bit messy start of the game, in my opinion. He comes on as an impact sub and he can change it. So it's going to be interesting to try and tally these up. So Dobson's nailed on. Is there any argument against Fraser or Campbell that you can make now, Sue, that's going to make me take them out of the starting 11? Because let's say one of them's potentially got to come out for Louis Watson, judged by what a lot of people have said. Have we seen enough from Louis yet? Obviously, I guess is part of the question. But those two who we have seen a bit from.
Yeah, and I guess I can't remember who said it, Tom, about I wouldn't say he's too slow and messy, but he could potentially be a very good impact sub. We did see that in his first game that he played for us, I think it was. Just because of like his speed on the ball. But I think, yeah, potentially we could think about. I mean, if I'm honest, I'm stubborn, so I want to stick with 3 that I've said. But I kind of can see where we could look at having Cam as that impact sub and have Louis in instead.
Oh, it's so tough to try and work it out which way we've gone.
You was
Stephen
hoping
saying
I
good
was
luck,
going to give
Louis.
you a definite answer.
Yeah,
then,
I was
weren't
hoping it so I could just type it in then. So I
Just
think.
Yeah, go on.
I think. See, I'm still a bit torn about Fraser. Has he? So Kamara is okay, like especially with his performances for Plymouth a couple of years ago. Maybe we haven't seen enough of him really. But Fraser, has he done enough? Like his goals, was he got 8 or 9 goals last season? Assists, he might have got a couple more, Mark. But I always feel like he does okay, but there's a little bit more we could get from him as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I think it was 9 goals last season. Someone will probably correct me in the chat. So, and not a great season for many of our team last year. So, I don't know. If you took him out, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think if we were choosing sort of like the best 11 we have, if they're all available and fit, and that's the thing. Like I say, having not seen enough of Watson, I couldn't genuinely put him in over Fraser because I just haven't seen enough. I think if I watched them both for 20 games, you'd have a proper opinion. For this, I can't. I mean, I'm glad he's done well in his appearances so far, but if you're picking him for the best 11 we've got, out of a fully fit squad, I don't know whether that's a bit rose tinted. So, and I agree, Fraser can go missing, but to be honest, there's many players like that who in games can do that. But he's also got that other thing where you go, wow, you can see he's got an extra bit of skill, which is the frustrating thing because we've talked about this previously and said consistency, and that's what he has to show now. Once he's back to fitness, gets in, show consistency. Maybe if there's a bit more of a threat in the squad behind him, he's going to have to up his game, 10% to get to that. But that's on him now. So, but we know there's a good player there.
Excellent stuff. Right, just a couple more comments. I mean, Luke's saying that Fraser hasn't had a decent striker to play off for ages. He needs movement in front of him. May will be ideal. Shiny Phil saying, I think Fraser has to start when he's fit. Stephen saying it should be TC, Dobbo and Pan Kamara in that midfield. Dan saying, how have we spent so long discussing Dobbo? He's nailed on, no discussion. Yeah, I think we landed on Dobbo pretty quickly. No one's really discussing whether he's got any merits. He was nailed on straight away. Aaron's saying it's a nice problem to have, not like previous years. Certainly, I think the easiest part of the side, and even then that was quite hard, was the back 4. So 2 of them were pretty much nailed on. 3 of them were pretty much nailed on. And then there was a little bit of a discussion about the 4th defender. We went for Hector, but I think that there was a lack of options there, which made it, in a way, ironically, a little bit easier for us, which isn't exactly a good thing. I guess Andrew's saying there's a case for Tyrese in midfield carrying the ball through the middle, work in progress. I'd like to see more. Right, Dan, our Shrewsbury fan, is in the waiting room. So we're going to have a quick break. When we come back, we will turn our attention to Saturday's trip up to the new Med. Thinking about a new kitchen or bathroom? Find professional, independent local installers with free home surveys, itemised quotes and protected payments, trading standards approved contracts, and workmanship warranties. The British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom, Bathroom Installations accredits installers to ensure they are police checked, fully insured, and experienced. Take the risk out of home improvement. Visit bikbbi.org.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer, It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. We spent the first 35 minutes of the show trying to work out which midfield we should be playing as our best 11. We still really, I don't know, we've come to something resembling a consensus, but I'm sure if at any point I put that midfield three up on Twitter, I will be getting hammered by some quarters because it's such a divisive subject. But there is a game to look ahead to on Saturday. A ground we've visited many times over the last few years with varying degrees of luck up at Shrewsbury. Delighted to say that we have got a correspondent from SALOP Cast joining us now. Dan joins us on Charlton Live. Good evening, Dan. How are you?
I'm good, folks. How are you guys?
Yeah, very good indeed. Thank you so much for joining us on this evening's big match preview to look ahead to the trip to Shrewsbury. And as you can see, sort of scrolling along the bottom there, you're sitting in 17th after last season's flirt with the top half. Last season was a standout year, really. Now you're back in your unfortunately your natural habitat, it feels like. First question, why did Steve Cotterill have to leave? Because he seems to be doing quite a good job there.
That is a very good question, Lou. It really is. We don't really know what happened. It's often the case, right? You hear rumours and we think we know, and then something else happens that doesn't fit with the pattern. Basically, we spent quite a lot of money last year. It's probably nowhere near as much as other clubs in our division spent, but for us, it was a big overspend. And Cotterill almost certainly had a big bust up with the chairman. And the chairman said, "You ain't spending that much money again because we haven't got it." And Cotterill said, "Well, if you do that, then that's not my gig. We won't be able to improve on last season, and therefore I won't be doing it." And so they had a standoff for a couple of months, which was a nightmare, really, because you can't really prepare for the new season when you don't know what's happening with your manager. And in the end, I think they agreed to depart. And Cotterill's, he's going to pop up somewhere else in due course, I'm sure. But it meant that we had to start our pre-season preparations quite late. So yeah, Matt Taylor's come in, and we are almost in our natural habitat, which is 17th in League One. I think if you ask any Shrewsbury fan where we are most likely to finish in any random season, 17th in League One is about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't find that offensive, because that is just where Shrewsbury always seems to be the only time you weren't there, other than last season where I said you had a bit of a flirt with the upper reaches, was obviously the time you knocked us out of the playoffs. So the one time
I wasn't going to go there, but we can. But if you like, that was a very good year. You're right. Yeah,
we were the victims of that. So I mean, yeah, Matty Taylor, as you said, has come in, not on a great run at the moment. I make it, was it 5 without a win in all competitions? How has he sort of fared so far?
Well, I mean, not on a great run is a bit of an understatement. We haven't scored a goal in September yet. And we've only got one game left. So, I mean, as Charlton fans, you're probably thinking, "Oh God, well, they're probably destined to score on Saturday now." But basically, we started okay. It's a completely new project. We've got a lot of new project players, if that's a thing. We didn't really know as fans what that would mean, but we had 3 wins out of the first 5, and so that was very, very much beyond our expectations, actually. But September's been tough. We've really struggled when we've gone behind. And that was particularly evident on Saturday against Leyton Orient. Played well for half an hour. They scored, and then that was it. The game was basically over. So we're not on the greatest of runs. We need a bit of luck. We need something to go our way. And then we're hopeful, or at least I'm hopeful, that there is something there in the bowels of this team that will enable us to kick on. But September's been pretty grim. There's no beating about the bush with that one.
Dan, with Matt Taylor coming in, has there been much of a change in philosophy, do you think, in the way you're going to be playing this season? So obviously, Cotterill was, like I say, a very experienced manager, and every manager's got their own way of playing. But do you think it's quite a noticeable difference? And that's what's really sort of like gone against you in the last few games?
Well, I think there's been a change in rhetoric, Mark. And the change in rhetoric was, quite frankly, we were going to play more football. I mean, the method last year was really for the other team to have quite a lot of the ball. We would play 3-5-2. We would break, and we'd look to win games 1-0 on 33% possession. I mean, it's hardly entertaining, and it wasn't entertaining. And no Town fan will tell you it was entertaining, but there was a modicum of method in it, and we subsequently finished mid-table. We've now got arguably better football players. The rhetoric was very much we were going to play more football. The midfield was going to be more in the game. But quite frankly, I haven't seen it. A lot of the time the ball goes back to the goalkeeper and it gets blasted 70 yards up the pitch. We often end up with a back five rather than the back three. We're still trying to play 3-5-2. So the plan of playing more through midfield, playing to the feet of the forwards, it's still a plan. The evidence has been pretty threadbare that the practice is going to follow. But Taylor's a young manager. He's dealing with quite a lot of young players, and it does take time to get this thing nailed down. But as I say, September's not been a month that's filled us with a great deal of hope. But football fans' memories are short, right? August wasn't that bad. We just need perhaps to give him a bit more time to really nail this message down. So that gap's there, and the big question is whether we'll be able to bridge it.
Hi, Dan. Just funny enough, I was going to ask you something about your formation, and then you've just pretty much answered it within the answer to Mark. But I'm just interested, like you're saying, you've got quite a young squad. Do you feel like that's one of your strengths? Because obviously we're in a similar situation where we've got quite a lot of young players, and it's like that unknown quantity, so you can tend to like go in with the shock factor against your opposition because these players are untried and untested. So where do you feel like your main strengths lie at the moment?
Main strengths, when you haven't scored a goal in September, Sue, I'm struggling a bit, if I'm being brutally honest. But I mean, I think it's a fair question. I mean, we have got, Elliot Bennett used to play for Blackburn. He'll play right wing back. We've got, a number of other players. Carl Winchester used to play at Sunderland. We've got players who've been around a bit. Shea Dunkley, big ugly centre half. He'll run over his grandmother to win a header. We've got players who've been around, but there are a lot of project players in there. There are a lot of 20, 21, 22-year-olds who have come often through quite decent academies, but you're just waiting to see whether they can make that step up to senior football. So the hope is that one or two of them have got it. It's going to be a little bit of time before we know which ones and how they're going to express themselves. So I mean, I think there is a surprise factor, but it's just as much as a surprise for us as it is for you. We don't really know what's going to happen next. Give an example. We've got a guy called Max Mata who plays up front, New Zealand international, done very well in Ireland, in the second division in Ireland. Now, I don't know much about the first division of Irish football, let alone the second division of Irish football. But by all accounts, he looks like he might have something. The question is, will we see it? So loads of question marks. We're nowhere near answering them now, 8 or 9 games in, than we were back in the middle, at the beginning of August. But I also think too many Town fans are glass half empty. It's probably the same with the Addicts fans, right? There's too many people who sack Taylor now. That's nonsense. You've got to give a young coach time to actually work his methods into players' thinking. And if push comes to shove, 17th is better than 24th, right? I'm hoping that something goes our way and that kickstarts us into a more positive brand of football. And obviously, I wouldn't mind it being on Saturday, but I guess you may see that differently, which is fair enough.
Yeah, well, I guess if you're after something going your way, perhaps that little bit of luck, you might want to see if Tom Flanigan can avoid playing against us on Saturday, because he is the man with the worst amount of luck I've ever seen playing against. So obviously he got sent off at the Valley in the 6-0 towards the end of last season. That's the second time he's been sent off against us. He gave away a free kick that led to a goal. He deflected in our winner at Wembley. He got headbutted by one of our strikers. I think he's given away a penalty against us as well, but he's definitely been sent off against us twice. So you'll probably be hoping he isn't playing. But who do you hope is playing? I mean, I'm obviously taking the mick there. He might be good for you. But, Dan Udoh scored against us previously. I'll be honest, there's been times I've watched him and I thought, I don't know, you'd want a bit more from your leading striker, but he has scored against us previously. So who are your danger men, and is he one of them?
That's an interesting question about Dan Udoh. I mean, the point with Flanigan, I didn't realise it was a tale of woe all against Charlton, but he had another one just for good measure last year. He was sent off for a second bookable offence, and it wasn't even him who committed the offence. So that was that was duly rescinded. But of course, we lost the game because we only had 10 men. So
I really hope he plays on Saturday.
Yeah, and he might do actually. Dan Udoh, he's our go-to centre forward. He'll probably play up front with Mata, the guy I just mentioned, the New Zealander who's been playing in Ireland. Udoh's big, he's strong, and he's direct. And he doesn't score many goals, right? Now, that's almost heretical to some Town fans because he is big, he's strong, he's a typical fan favourite. He's come back from basically 12 months out with a knee injury, so you've got to give him a bit of latitude. But I don't see him knocking the ball in from 3 yards after it's bounced off someone's bum. He won't be there for that. He might well score your goal where he runs 30 yards and beats 2 players, but I want to send a forward who scores ugly goals. And Udoh's not that man. I mean, I'm hoping Matt has got more about that there, but he is a fan favourite though because he's all action and all the rest of it. But I wonder if you're building a team around him, you need him to be hoping to get 20 goals, and he ain't going to do that. You know, so that's a worry. I would argue that our experienced players are people like Winchester in the middle of the park. Carl Winchester's been around quite a long time now. He can put his foot on the ball and he can pass it. When he passes it, we're more likely to play football. He was completely non-existent at Leyton Orient on Saturday. I mean, it doesn't mean he will be this coming Saturday, but these boys have got to get in the game a bit more. Defensively, I think we're pretty good. I think the back three is pretty solid. I mean, Lee Flanigan to one side, but he's Northern Ireland international. He's played at a higher level. Shea Dunkley's been around. He took Sheffield Wednesday. He played well for Sheffield Wednesday the year before last. Played at Oxford. He's solid, very, very, very good in the air. And we've got a couple of other options. Deeney, who played for Carlisle last year, took them up. He's not done much wrong. So I think we're solid at the back. I think we're quite hard to break down. The problems come at the other end of the field. And I think we've got, since we lost Jordan Shipley, used to play for Coventry, he's going to be out for a few months. We're injured. I think we've got a real creativity problem. So that's where the issues are. Ideally, Tom Bayliss, who plays in the number 10 role, would fill that. I'm not really feeling it. I'll be perfectly honest with you, Louis. I like him. He's got a touch on the ball, but we just don't see him on the ball enough. So the issue is who's going to create those goals. And at the moment, I'm not totally sure.
Well, fantastic. Well, I'm sure you'll find a lot of teams do find that their creativity when they come up against our defence don't have to be all that. So you might be you might find yourselves in luck this Saturday. Andrew saying I like Dan from Salop. So do we. That was brilliant. Thanks for coming on and give us the lowdown on Matty Taylor's side. Looking forward to Saturday, and may the best team win. Thanks for your time, Dan.
Cheers, folks. Much appreciated.
There we go. That's Dan from Salop Cast. Excellent. We've had some really good opposition correspondence so far this season. That was another really good one. Alan saying we really got to do these guys. Tom saying we need to smash these lot to show them that we mean something this season. And we won there last season. Ben Garner's only away win. That was the game where was it? Jez missed about 3 chances, but then scored a tap in. But traditionally, I feel like we often struggle there. One of the few times we've gone there and actually properly blown them away was Bo's side when we went and won 3-0, where Pratt scored an absolute screamer. I think we scored a scrappy goal in the first half, maybe Lyle Taylor, and then Carlin had a really bad game but scored a penalty right at the end as well. So traditionally a difficult game for us. I did ask the Addicts boss, Mickey Apples, to look ahead to it very briefly on Saturday, and this is what he had to say. Now 3 unbeaten going into Shrewsbury next week, which is always a difficult place to go.
It is, yeah. Been there many a times, and obviously they've got a change of management this year, which slight change in the style as well. So looking forward to sort of going there and hopefully using the momentum that we've got over the last 3 games and try and get another positive result.
There we go. I did say it was brief. Mickey's not doing his press conference until tomorrow, so I did just ask for a quick line looking ahead to it. I mean, the fact that we do go there and struggle doesn't fill me with the most amount of confidence going into Saturday, Mark. Like I said, we won there last season. I think we deserved all 3 points. You know, we missed a few good chances, but we lost there scrappy late one under Jacko. I remember a 4-3 defeat there under Carl Robinson, which was a bit of an interesting night as well. How do you see this one for us, sort of showing what we're about as a team? It was a good point from Tom. You know, it's obviously laced with we want to prove what we're about, so we got to go there and show that if we are. I mean, we're talking about a team that sat one place below us in the table before we get too cocky. But if we are about anything this season, we got to go there and show it.
Yeah, we have, and I think what we're going to benefit from is having another week without a midweek game, and another week with Mickey getting his point across to the players. Some of them, like I say, we know we're getting back to fitness, like Miles. You know, that would have helped him not having the midweek game. And I know it's one of those games. I used to work with a Shrews fan, and they always took great delight when we played them at their place. I mean, not so loud when they came to us because we used to tend to win at the Valley. It's a strange one because it's not one of those grounds you associate us with just not doing well at, because I think we have had enough wins over the last, few seasons to say, right, it's not as bad as it seems. I think you do remember the worst results, and it's sort of like obscure it a bit, lopsided, I was going to say. So I think we've got nothing to fear going there. Like the guy said, he said they've not scored. They don't react well from going behind. And we proved when we went behind against Fleetwood that we could turn it around, which was, I know we're not known for that either, but I think there's a slight different mentality now to this team. And also what benefits is it is a fairly new, we do have some new faces. So it's not like we're going to somewhere like the Den where we don't particularly do well. And it seems to be like a monkey on your back and it's weighing them down. I think it's one of those ones where we can go to and we can be positive. They're not going to fancy playing us I know it's a small run, but it is still a run we're on. So they're not going to fancy playing us. And like I say, now Miles is back and there's options and Alfie's looking sharp. Blackett Taylor. I should imagine they'll look at the fullback will look at coming up against him and almost be dreading it. And that's what we've sort of like got to play for. I mean, someone just gave me pelters for saying I thought Cory should be better off the bench. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, he is a great impact player and great. He can start. If he has their fullback once or twice, he's going to have him the whole game. And, my worry is someone just clobbers him to stop him doing that. So I think we've got enough weapons in our armoury now, more than we had at the start of the season, more than we had almost like last season. So we were suffering last season with a lack of squad depth. This season we're loaded in midfield, but there's options there now, and I think that bodes well for us because I always think you've got to be optimistic in general with games like this. And like I said earlier, let them worry about our strengths and not worry about them too much. And we'll see where it takes us on Saturday.
Yeah, these are our last few results away at Shrewsbury. So 1-0 last season, 1-0. Then the two before, we had that horrible 1-0 defeat late on under Jacko. 1-1 draw, you may remember in COVID when Johnny Williams got subbed off about 10 minutes after he came on. Obviously, we had the 3-0 win under Bow, which I said in our playoff winning season. Obviously, lost a playoff game there as well. So, yeah, a mixed bag going there. But, as we heard from Mickey there, we go there actually on the back of 3 without defeat now, Sue. And that momentum is important for us. I said on Sunday, I hope we've put the start of the season behind us, and unfortunately that resulted obviously in a good man being let go, but a good man who wasn't getting results, and that's football. Now, we can't draw a clean shape. We can't go to the EFL and say, do you mind if we start the season 5 games in? Because that's happened. That's cost us points, a lot of points. But we can try and see this as a fresh start for Mickey and see if we can put together some sort of run.
Yeah, I think that obviously the team are going to take a lot of confidence from what happened on Saturday because Wickham are not a bad side. They're sort of playoffs. They're about the seasons that they have been sort of in League One. And then to go 1-0 and then come back and win 3-1. I think that would have filled them with a lot of confidence. And I think added to what Mark was saying about we've got players coming back from injury now that's giving us that strength that we haven't had, that Dean didn't have at his disposal. So like seeing the team line up on Saturday and seeing Chuks on the bench, amazing. Like I know not everyone is a big fan of Chuks, but he is someone that can come on and cause damage. So it's I think the lads would definitely be up for it after that win, having the week off break, that maybe a few of the lads that are getting closer to coming back or just coming back from injury, it's gives them that little bit more of a like energy and having that, being able to have that balance of having a rest as well. So yeah, I think having those extra players on the bench that are going to know that if you are struggling a little bit, that you've got players on that bench that can make an impact. Whereas before, I think we were all like, "Whoa, who's going to come on and do anything?" It's a very different feeling at the moment with those players coming back, and just with the way Mickey talks about the games and what he's instilling in that squad.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another good point, Andrew's pointing out, when I've looked at the results in the past, that's all history now. We've got a different team, and so have they. Which is obviously true. But we do have our little bogey sides, don't we? And it feels like Shrewsbury is always one of them. Well, as I said, we won there last season, Alan. Winning breeds confidence. Let's just stop the mistakes in the defence. So Aaron's saying, I assume we don't know about those returning from injury this week yet. So the only news we've had so far is that Terry Taylor will be back after a concussion he had against Stevenage. Which obviously meant he missed the game against Wycombe. But I mean, it comes down to, again, obviously we've spoken the last couple of weeks about best 11s, but I mean, do you massively want to change a winning side after the performance against Wycombe? Which, you know, it's easy to forget almost a week on that there were large spells in that second half where we were sort of on the back foot there. But was there anyone who came off the bench that you'd want to see starting? So obviously Anike, we'd have to rule him out from starting games just because that's not what Chuks is about at the moment. Tanae Watson's probably the biggest one for me. If you can get him in instead of a Banquer, James, is that James a Banquer even, I should say, Mark? Is that a decision you'd be back in?
Yeah, I'd put Tanae Watson in at right back with no qualms. You can say, right, you know, if he starts to cramp up late in a game, you can always pull him off and change it that way. But no, if you don't want to make change for change's sake. And I think if you look at what we've got there, like I said, on the bench, it's nice now for Mickey to look over his shoulder and see Chuks sitting there and go, you know what, he can make a difference. Therese Campbell can make a difference. So it might be a little unfair, so we say, to someone like Cory Anderson, if he's pulled out, and say, right, you know, but they are kids learning. He's got to learn that the place on the bench, you know, come on and do the job. So don't change it too much. There's no need. Right back, Hector, that's fine. You know, goalkeeper is always going to be a toss of a coin. I wasn't, obviously I saw the goal. You know, I said let in, but no keeper saving that. It's come through players. It was a great volley. So he gets another week's grace to show what he can do, I think.
Indeed. Tom says Chuks can hold a ball and sometimes score a goal, but these last few games has been too predictable and has just held still. I mean, Chuks causes issues. I think particularly the Stevenage game. Part of a question, I guess, and again, I might be imagining this, but I mean, Cory had so much space for his goal on Saturday, the late goal against Wycombe, and I wonder if the fact that Chuks was even on the pitch played a part in that. Obviously, the minute of the game and how tired they were, but they knew they had a body in the middle that they had to be wary of. So that gave Cory that little bit more space. That's honestly, that is the effect he can have on defenses. Sue, and that I wonder if that played a part. Aaron's saying I would like to see a Banquer at what he's like at centre back. I mean, that's one potential because, as I said, we struggled so long to find our best back four. Could he replace someone at centre back, and then we'll see? Or is that too much of a risk for a player who's had a tough start playing out of position at the start of his time with us?
I've lost track of what the question was. We was talking about Chuks. Moved on to the.
So I moved on to Aaron's. Aaron's saying he'd like to see what James Banquer is like at centre back. I mean, could he be a swap for maybe Michael Hector? Is that messing around with things too much?
I think as well. Like I'd seen some comments earlier about James that wasn't quite as sort of infused with his sort of level that he's at the moment. I don't know whether you would necessarily. I mean, I'd go with Terrell Thomas. So
yeah, but again, I think Teo's probably out, so he's our only left back option at this moment in time. Teo Eden's out for about a month, isn't he? So I guess Terrell probably has to play at left back. So that's one sort of headache that we've got at the moment, but also means it feels like a pretty straight choice for Terrell, and he's done okay at left back considering. Adam saying less attacking fullbacks means there's less pressure on Cory and Leeburn tracking back, and that's a good point. Obviously, Miles did speak about tracking back at the top of the show there. Luke saying Chuks and Tedic coming on definitely gives defenders a lot to think about. Yeah, I mean that is the benefit when we get to that last 20 minutes mark, is Tedic can come on and Chuks come on, and they've both looked good when they've come on. Like especially Tedic has been a weird one because I honestly couldn't tell you what he does, but whatever it is, he does it very well because he's won a penalty and he scored a goal.
He's from seeing the goals he scored last year where he was, and he can hit a ball. He didn't hit it particularly well on Saturday, but it ended up in the back of a net, so that's all that counted. Yeah, it's like I say, it's a nice options. It's, you know, Chuks as well, Tedic, you know, they're bigger, taller. So if for some reason we are chasing a game, you know, they're dangerous at set pieces. So yeah, centre halves. I'd said last week about Abankwah coming in, but I wouldn't swap two positions straight away. I think if you put in Tanai Watson in, you're not going to change one of the centre halves as well. So I'd keep pretty much back four as it is, and then just look at the bench and go, right, go and show me what you can do. Make a difference.
Excellent stuff. Right, Paul says Abankwah is a centre back, not a right back, not used to the pace of the game yet, though. So yeah, it would be good to see Abankwah at centre back at some point. Whether Saturday will be the time for it. Well, judging by how poor Shrewsbury are up top, according to Dan, maybe it's a good chance to throw him in. But we'll see. We've run out of time. Actually, I've just seen the time. We've gone over time, if anything. So yeah, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Charlton Live, the big match preview, live on YouTube this evening, or caught up on the podcast afterwards as well. We really appreciate everyone who comes along for the ride. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast app and on YouTube as well, so you never miss any of our shows. Massive thanks to Dan from SALOP Cast who joined us early on this evening as well. Mark and Sue, been an absolute pleasure as per always.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much.
Good to speak to the pair of you. I'm Louis Mendes, and thanks for listening to Charlton Live, sponsored by the British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom and Bathroom Installation. We'll be back on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. to look back at whatever happens up at Shrewsbury. Hopefully it will be an away win for the Addicts. We'll see you later.